Well, my first fantasy football foreshadowed front runner for the 2023 season. And if you know me and you've been around me, and as Gabe has, and you talk fantasy with me even if you just talk fantasy with me one time in the past few months, you know that I'm all about this player. Not only do I think he going to be, this is my bold prediction. I think he could be the top fantasy performer of the whole entire season. And obviously, I don't mean among quarterbacks because he's a wide receiver, and that is Garrett Wilson. Now, I will say I think he's going to be the top performing flex player, meaning among wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. I think he's going to have a monster season. And look, I know that's not guaranteed. It's not locked in. This is me foreshadowing what I think is possible. And I've been saying this for months. Even in my season-long wide receiver rankings, I have Garrett Wilson number one. And there's a few things that play into that. It's just, first and foremost, last year, I knew one of those rookie wide receivers were going to emerge. And look, Chris Olave is not far behind Garrett Wilson's production, and Chris Olave actually played one less game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, sir.
So there's a lot of Chris Olave truthers out there, but for me, I did watch a lot more Garrett Wilson games, so there might be some bias in there. But I just think his explosiveness is off the charts. When I watch him play, there's just something electric about him. I love his attitude when he talks to the media, and he's so confident. And this guy was playing with a carousel of terrible quarterback plays. Zach Wilson. Look, Mike White did all right. I believe he played with Joe Flacco. And if I'm not mistaken, he was doing better with Joe Flacco and Mike White. It was just terrible, right?
I mean, Jacob essentially summarized it and say the man won Rookie of the Year with terrible quarterback play.
I mean, absolutely. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is Rookie of the Year for offensive players. And obviously Chris Olave was in the running for that. I think his teammate Breece Hall would have been in the running for that if he didn't get injured. So good drafting by the Jets, by the way. What a installment of young players they have, including Sauce Gardner. Like they're drafting so well. And there's one thing we have not mentioned yet, and that is the addition of Aaron Rodgers. Now, look, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a great season last year, but I still believe in the player. He's getting up there in age, but look what we saw Tom Brady do 2 seasons ago. Like lead the league in passing, support several very high fantasy viable options. And I just think, and look, when Aaron Rodgers played in the preseason, who did he throw a touchdown to? Garrett Wilson. I just think that Rodgers knew what he was doing. I think that when Aaron Rodgers went to his dark retreats in his dark cave, he was meditating and imagining things. And the thing that clicked in his mind, he imagined throwing touchdowns to Garrett Wilson. And that's what led him to New York. So combination of all these things. Sorry, I don't have a plethora of statistics to throw at you, but Garrett Wilson, it's a gut feeling of mine. He's going to be an elite fantasy performer this year. He's going to I see him around a lot of people have him wide receiver 10. He's going somewhere top of the second round in drafts. I think he's going to outperform that. I think he's going to be a league winner this year. Garrett Wilson, let's lock it in.
Garrett Wilson, lock it in. He's currently the wide receiver 11 going in drafts right now. And honestly, man, I love everything about this. It's just when you really think about it, it's scary a little bit. But I take him over a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you believe in Jared Goff, that's good for you. I believe in Jared Goff to an extent, but like Amon-Ra St. Brown is currently going before him. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson all day. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson over CeeDee Lamb all day. I don't know how far you're willing to go, But that's two guys right there that are already going in front of him. That puts him at a wide receiver 8. So I don't know, man. I think the sky's the limit. And you said you didn't want to go crazy with stats. Think about this. He had 147 targets last year and only caught 83 of those balls. Imagine how many of those were like uncatchable. Just
I'm sure.
Aaron Rodgers is going to throw a beautiful ball. We should see 150 targets. We should see around 110, 115 receptions, which instantly right there is 25 more fantasy points. And all about the yak
adds more yards
touchdowns
and potential touchdowns. I think the sky's the limit for this guy.
The writing is on the wall for Garret Wilson. Jacob, I don't disagree with you here. It's a good take. It's a great one to start the show with. Garret Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets, is Jacob's 2023 fantasy football foreshadowed front runner.